Hey guys, J77 here doing another flashback review, and the movie I'm going to be talking about is The Last Dragon. Now, The Last Dragon is my mom's personal favorite. She has saw this film not once, not twice, but pretty much 8 times. When this film was in theaters, she had the album, which I'm not gonna lie, I actually liked. I think the music was pretty good. There were a lot of hits in the music that I liked, a lot of misses that I did not like, pretty much forgettable. One of the things I do remember the soundtrack, the Last Dragon theme song, Rhythm of the Night, which actually was in another album. I think Debris had it in their album, the long version at least. Also, Inside You, Fire. Those are the songs I definitely remember. It was a good soundtrack, and I recommend anybody at least give it a check. Give it a check out. It's very, very good, and it's definitely worth listening to. As for the movie itself, I'm gonna put it this way: this film, even though it's my mom's personal favorite, it is not mine. It is pretty much a guilty pleasure film, but it's not a great guilty pleasure film. Let me tell you the plot of this movie in a nutshell, because I'm not going to spend all day going into details. You have this guy named Bruce Leroy, and Bruce Leroy he's doing the following. He's trying to find a new master because he has surpassed his old master, and he still wants to learn more training. So his teacher had gave him this wannabe medallion and told him that to search for the master, you got to go to such and place. The next storyline he's also dealing with is you have this guy named Shonuff who wants to fight him. For some reason, he believes he's the only person who is the master of fighting, and since somebody also said that Leroy was a master of fighting, he wants to fight him. You also deal with another storyline where you have this douchebag producer who wants to promote his girlfriend into this dance club, dance studio, music studio, whatever you want to call it. Is this kind of studio, but finds that the person who runs it, who happens to be a singer as well, has turned him down, and he can't take no for an answer. So now he's pursuing her. He wants to, because he wants to have her his girlfriend in this pop culture club. You have the love interest between the girl and Bruce Leroy, who they both find each other very attractive and both wants to be with each other. You have the Delver again, who now wants to kill Leroy for foiling his plans, and then you have the final climax, which is Bruce Leroy versus Shonuff in a one-on-one battle. Out of all the stuff I just said right here, only two truly matters, and that's the love interest and pretty much Bruce Leroy and Shonuff. Everything else is pretty much padding for the film to move along, which that's exactly what that is. It's pretty much padding. Some of the stories they're needed to help to understand the movie plot more better, if you really want to call it a plot. Others was a story that really went nowhere. I mean, it was not necessary. If you were to cut this thing out, you would definitely not miss a beat with the film. One of the stories, that, of course, is him finding this master, which throughout most of the film he's not even looking. He did find him, but you know what? There's other stuff going on that it becomes almost pointless. Right up to the very near the end, when he realized that there really was no master, that his own teacher was just fooling with him, and pretty much still made it very much pointless. As for this douchebag producer, I'm gonna be very straight up. His plan was just plain stupid. I mean, I'm gonna be very honest. He wanted to give this singer who could not sing, who was his girlfriend, airtime, just that way she can become popular. The problem with this, she was already getting airtime. She was already on television, in a scene that you pretty much see right there. She was on television, and even if this is the case, if say Lauren did turn down what she did, a real producer would have simply said, okay, let's go to this person, let's go to MTV, let's go to whoever was playing music video, let's go to radio station, let's make interviews, let's make talk shows hosts. He could have done all that other stuff. He didn't really need to go to this one person to get her girlfriend's recognition. He could have done other means to do that. So all that stuff really was by nothing, just to give us just to push the story along, which that is exactly what it was. It was just pushing the story along, which for me was not even needed. As for the damsel and as for the love interest between Leroy and the girl, yeah, I actually liked it. It was okay. It was fine. But what made it more fun is you had his little brother. His little brother really was more interesting and more fun than Bruce Leroy, which is played by Tomac, who I give credit for. He definitely is a martial artist. It showed in his skills. He is definitely a good kung fu fighter. He would have probably been a better action hero with other films, but he never really made any other films. But in terms of this film, action-wise, he was top-notch. Acting-wise, and made me want to care. I really didn't care for this character. I really didn't. It was nothing really there for me to hang on to, other than the fact is that he was a big Bruce Lee fan, and he really wanted to live to the legacy of Bruce Lee. Well, and I want to make this very clear. This film does not really disrespect Bruce Lee. One of the things I was worried about is this film was going to be like a parody of Bruce Lee or a rip-off of Bruce Lee. It really is not that. It's just a spoof comedy. It's an action spoof comedy, and it really plays off well. And it didn't really try to make him be like Bruce Lee. He's Bruce Leroy. Yeah, unfortunately they gave him that name. But in reality, they made it very clear that they're not trying to make fun of Bruce Lee. And having him, see Bruce Lee films and having, him do a music video on Bruce Lee, that really, it really paid a respect towards the film. Out of all the films that tried to cash in on Bruce Lee's death, The Last Dragon really did a good job of not trying to make fun, but paying tribute to a great action star that was Bruce Lee. So I will say I give them credit for that. That they did a great job with that, and they handled that pretty well. Other than that, the film alone, this is not a film. This is a film. Let me put it this way: this is a film that if you're looking for something to waste an hour and a half, you're looking for a bit of comedy, you're looking for something just to entertain you, then this film will do that. It is entertaining. It's not terrible. It's definitely a film that is fun. It will probably remind you of the old days of the 80s, both good and bad, but pretty much remind you, and you can chuckle along because some of the stuff was happening in the 80s were pretty much ridiculous. It's a very fast paced. The film is not boring. And the action is pretty much key. I'm gonna be honest with you. This film solely rests on the action scenes, which is pretty good. It's a typical '80s action flick. It's definitely it definitely got the feel. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the action in this film was top notch. Shonoff and Bruce Leroy was pretty good. Right up to the point where Bruce Leroy was actually fighting him, and unfortunately, it wasn't as climactic that I expected to. But well, all is worth Shonoff, really, who's my favorite character in this film, did not disappoint me when he was on scene. He really carried the movie very well. My only beef is, for a guy who wanted to beat this guy, he really did not, he really took very, very long to do it. I mean, there were some scenes there that didn't make any sense. One of the scenes is when he in the theater, and I know a lot of people were saying, well, he was fighting the other guys. He was fighting the people who wanted to challenge him because he was making too much noise in the theater, which I find kind of funny because the theater was making a lot of noise, playing music. So all he did was basically did the same thing they was doing. Only now they didn't have a problem with that. So he just whipped their asses from, broke one guy's leg and down to pieces and pointed at Bruce Leroy out saying, "You're next." My thing is, if you want to prove something, why don't you just go and prove it? Why are you waiting? Second time, Diljo, Bruce Leroy trains other people, which makes that, and which again further note why him looking for a true master makes absolutely no sense, but so be it. He picked a fight with him, forced him to kiss his feet, otherwise he was going to hurt one of his students. And I'm saying again, if you are so hell-bent on proving your master, why don't you just fight him there? I mean, what's the point? I mean, and he walks away. Again, he picks on, he went to his father's store, bashed that place up. And again, he had an opportunity to fight this guy, and he never really did. He could have just wait outside for him. He was eventually going to show up. But he didn't. He just bashed the place up and he just left. It wasn't until the very last minute where this douchebag producer comes to him, show him tons of money, and said, "I don't need your money. Just give me the right place and right time, and I'll constantly beat the guy's ass." But I'm like this: if that was the case, how come you didn't do it in all the time you had opportunity to do it? Especially the 2 times you see them face to face. So that was always the problem with me. But overall, his presence was still fun to watch because he was saying some lines that made me laugh, and the way he was acting was just comical. So the co-stars and the stars, with the exception of probably Bruce Leroy and his love interest, I really didn't care about anything else that was going on. It was just there to push the movie along, and that's exactly it. If you're looking for acting in this movie, you're not going to get it. I'm going to keep it real. This is not an acting film. This is purely an action comedy spoof. You're not going to get great acting in this film. The music, the score for this film is so-and-so. It's 80s music. When you hear it, you're pretty much going to be reminded of 80s action flicks, and that's what it is. Other than that, this film is pretty much not bad, but could have been better because the film was there. I mean, the film is definitely a cult classic alongside Blacks, and rightfully so. It's a fun film, entertaining film. It made my mom laugh. She constantly, drove me nuts by saying every line word for word. I mean, the only other film she saw like more than multiple times was Purple Rain, and that film, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've seen it like 7 times. And not because I like the film, it's because every time I see it, it seems like I don't remember what the hell was that film all about, and I really gotta go back and look at this film again just to see what I was missing. But yeah, these are kind of stuff that my mom liked. I actually saw later on, and although I think she loved the depth of film, this film was pretty much a popcorn flick. It was a guilty pleasure, and this film was pretty much on a not bad, could have been better range. So at a scale of 1 to 4, it gets 2.5 stars. Like I said, I did have fun with it when it was on with the comedy. It was also kind of funny, some of the amusing. The action was very, very good, and the pacing surprisingly was not that bad. It didn't drag to a standstill. It actually, pacing was kind of decent. The problem with this film, again, the acting was not great. You really didn't feel too much chemistry between Bruce Leroy and his love interest, which by the way, song "Nasty Girls" for Beverly Hills Cop. That was where I actually remember her most from in this movie. The storylines that was there was unnecessary. That the plot line, you got too many plot lines in this film, where they could have just at least cut down the part where he was looking for this master, especially when it's already been clear that he was teaching other students. So it made no sense to have that plot line at all. It made him look like he was weaker than what it really was. At least that's my opinion. But most importantly, I think the ending pissed me off more than anything else. I mean, this guy got beat up bad. This girl got captured, and the only thing you see that instead of going to the hospital, checked out, taking reports, she goes right back to the club like almost nothing happened, just wondering what happened to Bruce Leroy. Bruce Leroy, who had a very grueling fight, probably had a couple broken ribs, but now he's proven that he's a master, so I guess he has healing abilities. Dressed up in a suit, meets the woman, they talk a little bit, and so that little bit bothers me a little bit. And just the simple fact is that it really, honestly, if we all look back at it, this film was really more stupider than what it really gives credit for. But it definitely gets 2.5 stars because, like I said, it's a guilty pleasure. I'm actually glad it made my mom happy. If anything else, it was one of my mother's favorite films, and to me, it's one of my guilty pleasures. I can watch this film over and over again. That's how insanely stupid this is, but it's with all good fun, all good entertainment. So you guys may like it more than I did. If you remember this film, what's your favorite moment of this movie? Please comment. I'd like to know. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.